Wait, one other thing I want to talk to you about, Vince, is what do you, we mentioned...
That's not me. That's a good hat.
Yeah, where'd you get that at?
I don't know.
It looks like it needs a shower.
Hat Mart.
Down on Hat Street?
Yeah.
Hats off to you.
What did you want to say?
Anyway, so we started watching.
Welcome to KORRACAST.
We started a new show called 4 Reels where we talk about mostly current movies that are in theaters. If you want to keep up with 4 Reels, make sure you're subscribed if you aren't already subscribed. And we also started a new Tumblr, yumchunks.tumblr.com. That's where we're going to be updating on all of our stuff that's not strictly core related. And oh boy, we got some stuff a brewing.
What's on that Tumblr?
There's not a whole lot on that Tumblr right now. So for those of you who are back watching this KORRACAST, thank you for coming back. Thank you for sticking with us. Let's talk about some Avatar stuff. You guys want to do that?
Yeah.
Well, we're here, so we're gonna do it.
Let's start with our song that we've been working on.
It goes a little like this. So.
Okay, I enjoyed the Rift about as much as I think I can be expected to enjoy. It was fun. You know, the thing about these comics, and definitely it feels like with this, it's like, for one, it feels like we're retreading a lot of ground, especially that we covered in The Promise.
Right, so we're revisiting a lot of the same themes, but instead this time it's Toph and Aang instead of Zuko and Aang.
Right, I mean, it feels like the 100-Year War, aka the TV show, ended, and now we're just like, we don't really necessarily have a compelling story to tell. We're just seeing what these characters are doing.
I think my bigger issue was just with coming back to this world in general, right? I think when you have these, and I guess this world, not the world, but these characters more so, they lose a certain luster, right? When you go back to them repeatedly like this. And I think that's what these comics, I think to me, ultimately embody. Is kind of like, we have this ideal of like, oh, it was such a great story, and it was just a great thing of what it was, existed, and we loved it. But then you kind of go back into these new things, and it's not quite how you want, and then they've already advanced it with Korra anyway, so you're like, what? We're kind of retreading water here.
Right.
So it feels kind of like, I don't know if I didn't have that same spark that I did when I was, watching, when we were watching episodes, even previous comics. So part of it was just kind of having to kind of like, okay, what am I getting? Just like kind of having to get comfort in the page. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't.
This felt very, very similar to The Promise Part 1. I mean, not only in the fact that it's like, hey, it's a new city, and we got here, and oh no, there's trouble brewing in the city. I mean, it felt so similar to Yu Dao that I was like, wait a minute, is this The Promise? Did I forget what I was reading? And it also, like, we're retreading a lot of the similar ground with Aang and his character. I mean, this was the exact kind of character arc that he had in the Northern Air Temple episode in Season 1.
There's not a sense of, like, suspense anymore, because we know, like, oh, who's going to win? Nature or science? Industry or... Well, we know what happens.
Industry wins,
yeah! Like, I mean, obviously they're going to reach a, point where, we have to find a compromise and responsible. And blah, blah. But it's not like we're like, oh, are they going to able to build cars repeatedly? Like, what if they are able to build, like, cameras? Like, we know what this leads to.
I think that is the source of what you're talking about earlier, that reading this doesn't feel quite as exciting or interesting or even lost the veneer of the old series. I think it's because this isn't the forefront of where this universe currently is. We know where it's at.
Right.
What's going on there is so much more interesting or relevant or has a bigger scope than what's happening here, because we know that where this is going to end up.
Yeah, and I think when The Promise came out, it was something new, because it's like, okay, we know this world, this end of the timeline, we know this world, and there's really no reason to revisit the story unless we're getting a new slant on it. And that's what The Promise was. It was, we can see the seeds being planted. This is how Republic City is going to be. This is the new mindsets that's going to lead to this.
Right, and it's kind of forging the bridge.
But this is what we can fill in the blanks ourselves. Yeah. This is filling in the blanks for us.
Also, I think part of it too is that with the search especially, there was a little bit of, unknown because of where Season 2 was. It hadn't quite started, when the searches started. of the whole spiritual aspect.
Right.
And that had huge implications, or we thought it was going to, you know.
It kind of did.
It kind of did. So there was still that kind of unexplored territory, like, oh, what is this going to tell us about this world that we don't know in the spiritual realm? And in this, there's nothing like that. And I think you ideally, like, well, okay, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to give us more about the world, but at least reveal character. And I think that's what you were talking about. And it doesn't seem to be doing anything new with that either.
Yeah,
so I think that's more
I just assumed that, like, Aang and Toph would kind of learn to, like, understand each other just a little bit more. I mean, Toph was just not having anything of what Aang was saying. Aang was just like, you guys, man, I grew up here. And Toph was she's just a jerk. I mean, I don't know.
Well, she's always been pretty headstrong.
Yeah,
and now that she has something new, like an interest or whatever, and Aang's had that for quite a while now, maybe she's like, hey, Aang, it's my turn.
I mean, I feel like we've had this conversation with the Search Search and the Promise, but even more so with this, I feel like I don't really know where this is going. Like, other than perhaps to give closure to Toph and her story that we never really got in the original series. They introduced some kind of crazy monster and Aang's visions. Yang Shen's hanging around, and I don't really know why. It's just kind of like they're trying to pique our interest, obviously, but I'm not really, I'm not really sure if I'm.
Well, it's interesting. I'm hoping they're going to kind of take that whole part a little bit a step further about the visions, because that's one aspect of the Avatar maybe that has not been explored. That like having visions, is that part of the Avatar's powers that he can kind of not foresee, but you know what I mean?
They did
I think that'd be kind of an interesting element.
I feel like if these comics keep going, first off, Korra is going to be finished way before, like, these comics, it seems like they will bridge the gap completely. So I feel like what these comics should be doing is covering more of the important moments in the lives of the original gang. Like, it seems like the Rift and the Promise, especially the Promise, it wasn't a major moment. It wasn't a major character moment for any of the characters. You could say the Search was, Zuko finding out about his mom, but the Promise, you could take that away and just have the Search, and that's as much character development as really we've got from these comics so far. What I'm saying is that
these comics are pointless.
The
Did
Rift.
we talk about anything good?
Okay, what do you think is gonna happen with Yang Chen?
I don't know. I don't have any kind of.
Why do we care about that statue? What was all that? I was partially asleep.
Because what we're gonna find out.
Knocked down and the Aang statue's gonna.
What we're gonna find out is that ritual, he totally doesn't even understand it, and it's something like
he's just doing tradition for tradition's sake, which is meaningless. Blah. Oh well, let's find what the true meaning is. Oh wait, that works with industry, and we're gonna build a new utopia.
It's like finding the true meaning of Christmas.
Ryan,
like on our video, The Perfect Present.
In stores near you.
Is it?
If we're going,
it doesn't say I put one on a CD and I just left it in the store. Then yes.
In stores that might be near you.
Do you live near?
Do you live in our garage?
God. Done. Put it done. Let's talk about some Avatar stuff. How you guys want to do that?
Yeah.
Well, we're here, so we're gonna do it.
Let's start with our song that we've been working on.
It goes a little like this. Some days
my prince will come.
Korra, why
is the fun to have?
We're here. The Rift.
Why did we ever return?
We should not be filming KORRACAST.
Have you missed us?
I forgot how to do KORRACAST.